Hi, my name is Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and welcome to Catholics and Cappuccinos. I'm having a nice cappuccino and talking to my longtime friend, Helen Patton, the founder of the Patton Foundation, because her grandfather was the unbelievable General Patton. Hi, Helen.
Hey there.
How are you?
Long time.
I know, long time no see, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we went to Catholic University together. I was a graduate student.
That's right.
And you were a senior.
I was.
So we were just 1 year.
Yeah.
But we hit it off.
Did.
We really
It just, and who knew that we would actually be sitting here now?
It's insane.
Color coordinated.
Yes, exactly. Helen, you were a senior. I was a graduate student. And we had to stay, I don't know if you remember this, for Easter. Because we couldn't go home because we were both in this musical. I was in the very important part of the chorus.
Was this,
It was the Heart Key Jubilee, wasn't it?
yeah, or else it was,
Was it Camelot?
Camelot.
It was Camelot.
Camelot.
I was, of course, in the chorus. I never got parts. And I had to stay over Easter, and you said, what are you doing for Easter? And I said, nothing. And you said, would you like to come with my family to, was it the Chevy Chase Country Club?
Yes, and you were wearing a beautiful green dress.
I was?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I remember that.
And I went, and there is your family, dignitaries, like the upper echelon, the backbone of America. They're off the Mayflower, and I'm this Irish. I don't even know how I got in there. And you said to me, "This is my family," and your grandmother, I don't remember this, said, "Now we're gonna have to do something about the arrangements because this makes 13."
Oh, this was Mom.
This was your.
That's right. Yes, the hostess with the mostest.
And she said, "This makes 13, and we can't do 13 because we're superstitious." That was your grandmother. Wasn't it your grandmother?
No. It was definitely my mom.
Your mom.
Yeah.
But then I got to sit with your mom, and I loved her, and your brother. And your mom said to me, "Siobhan, my daughter Georgina is a cloistered nun."
No, it might have been my grandmother.
I think it was your grandmother.
Yes.
It was your
Zany
grandmother.
Helen.
Yes, because she
other.
said, we cannot sit as 13. That's bad luck. So we split the tables up.
That would be something.
And
that
you were
she
like,
would do.
oh no. And I said, I don't care. So I sat with your mom, and your mom said, she was so warm. She put her hand on mine. And when I walked to the bathroom, she put her arm in mine. And she said, could you please explain to me, I'm not Catholic, but my daughter has become a Catholic. She's a nun. Why do I only get to see her every 3 months when she
really asked you that?
She asked me that when she makes the ice cream.
Wow.
So that's how I met your mom. And here I was, I didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, well, I imagine it's because there's no distraction. And she's like, that helps. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that's really touching because that really means that she trusted you even in that short amount of time of knowing you.
And then I was such a fan of yours because you're an unbelievable actress. I was just saying to you beforehand, you were in Crimes of the Heart, and you're
Lenny,
a genius actress. But we had lost. You went on to England, right?
I did.
Where did you start?
So I had a little career in Washington D.C. I was with the Source Theater, and I got awarded pretty well for playing a girl in Borstal, which would be like a detention center. Yeah, and then I went on to do some Ionesco, and then I went to audition for the Royal Academy.
I remember when you got in,
well.
everybody was like, Helen Patton
really
got into the
big deal.
Royal Academy.
I know,
of Dramatic
it was
Art.
hard to believe.
It was huge.
Yeah, because I was just, I was kind of passed by a little bit at Catholic U.
So was I.
Yeah, well, and I got a talking to, they said, they really wanted me to go on the tour and play Phoebe in As You Like It.
And yes.
Of course, I felt that I should be out.
Well, you would have been a great Rosalind.
I played it later.
I actually played Phoebe in Shakespeare in the Park.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But you would be a perfect Rosalind.
I wouldn't have minded Phoebe, but it was a year in a truck in Phoebe.
Yeah.
You know?
And I happen to know, because I played it in Central Park, that you don't go on stage for quite a while. Exactly. You're backstage like, what am I going to do with myself?
If it was just a couple of nights or like a 3-month run, it would be all right.
Yes.
It was a year of Phoebe.
So you decided to audition for the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
I did. I auditioned for a lot of schools. I auditioned for Washington in Seattle, University of Washington, and I auditioned for New York University, Juilliard, and the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And it was just a miracle that I got in.
It was, and you were there for, what was it, a 3-year program?
Yeah. 3-year program.
So it's the best training, right?
You know, it was. I got into New York University, and Zelda Fitch-Handler wanted me very much to come there. I had studied with the Arena Stage Actors.
Yes.
And she really gave me a talking to. She said,
That was and Zelda Fitzgerald and Mark Hammer.
yes. Well, Mark Hammer was really, he wrote me nice recommendations.
They were fantastic.
He wanted me to go to the Royal
DC.
Academy. They were great actors. May they all rest in peace.
May they rest in peace. They were. We were lucky. They were great teachers.
They really were. That they had this wonderful summer program with the arena stage actors.
Yes.
And
So wait, you said that you had a talking to, and what did they say?
well,
to you?
no, Zelda called me up when I had been accepted to both the Royal Academy and New York University, and rejected by Juilliard. I do want to give you
Well, that was their loss.
the lowdown on that. It was their loss. But yeah, I don't think my audition went so well. But anyway, she called me. She goes, "All right, so you think you're going to get a RADA, huh?" And I said, "Well, it was royal." No, I said, I feel that's probably where I'd like to go. And she said, "They're going to ruin you.
Oh, stop it!
They're going to ruin you. What I'll do is I'm going to break you down. I'm going to break you down and build you up again. All they'll do is just work with what you got and build on top of that." But
That sounds pretty good to me.
That worked out really well. And I have to say, that's what I loved about RADA. They say, "What bag of tricks are you bringing us?" And,
plus-
if you could juggle, if you could sing, and World War II songs were my thing, it turned out. And that's now taken me.
What you do? Well, that's the other thing. So I was going to say, they were going to break you down. I remember you told me the story, Helen. I don't remember this, but I said, "What was it like being General Patton's granddaughter and General Patton's daughter?" And you said to me, "It was rough." Didn't you tell me some story about Texas that you got tied up because you would come to each?
Oh no, you're bringing really some pretty tough stuff.
There was tough stuff
here.
Yeah.
I was tied up on the.
No, but I mean, kids, you weren't always welcomed.
Yeah, I was at a slumber party.
Yeah.
And they thought that it would be really cool to take one of the commanders of the base's daughter and
Tired of
I was
things.
asleep, and they put me in a sleeping bag and dragged me to the middle of the base and
I
tied
remember
me
you
up.
told me this.
Like I was being burned at the stake.
But I mean, it's pretty rough to roll in as the General Patton's granddaughter and General Patton's daughter. That's rough. So I'm sure you got to London and were like, "Hey, listen, I don't need to be broken down. I like work with what I've got because what I've got is a lot."
Yeah, I have to say it was so exciting. What I wanted to do most at the Royal Academy was fence. I wanted to learn how to prize fight. And it was the thing that I kept flunking the most. Besides certain kinds of pronunciations when it came to the British dialect.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a room for an entire hour once a week with a woman, a teacher by the name of Marjorie, I think Marjorie Shaw or something. And she would just stare at me, and I think she was in a wheelchair, and she said, "All I want you to do is say or. And I did or for hours because Americans don't have these muscles. When you're speaking British, we just can't simply do it because we don't have those muscles.
Oh, they're frustrating.
And I can tell you, I haven't been building them up recently either.
Oh, sure,
so I
fine.
probably would fail again.
Well, that's hysterical. Well, so this is crazy. So here you went off to London, all over the world, working in your foundation, the Patton Foundation, and my mom passes 4 years ago, 97, and 2 days after my mom died, this man calls me and says, "Hey, your uncle went to the Deerfield Academy in Massachusetts, and we would like to honor him because he was shot down in World War II.
Oh,
And he was this Irish Catholic kid from Syracuse.
really?
My grandfather caught him in 8th grade smoking cigars with the Italians. He goes, "You're out of here." Takes him to Deerfield, which was all Protestant. So it was almost like a diversity program. My uncle hated it. He used to walk to Mass every Sunday, 8 miles. And the dean there was lovely and he used to pick him up. I forgot his name. Anyway, long and the short is, at the end of his freshman year, the dean said, "You're not coming back." And my grandfather said, "Is this the way you want to represent the Catholics?" My uncle said, "Okay." It's only 9th grade, 15 years old. Turn the car around. Says to the dean, "Could you give me one more shot?" He becomes captain of the football, captain of the hockey, captain of lacrosse, and the president of his class. His name was Eddie Egan. He goes to Princeton after, but my grandfather thinks it's a better idea for him to sign up for World War II in the Air Force because Goebbels was kinder, they said, to the Air Force. He does
Oh, my
50
goodness.
missions.
That's something I'd never heard before.
That's what my grandfather thought. Of course, so he did 50 missions, and he was out. They were all allowed to go home. He was a navigator.
And you're saying he was shot down?
So he volunteered for a 51st with a new pilot, a brand new guy, and gets shot down. He gets
Where
killed.
was he shot down?
He was shot down in Hungary, and they never found his body. But it's crazy how God works in mysterious ways. So I got back in touch with you because I read that these guys, children of men from World War II from Germany, would contact your sister Georgina
Oh, yeah.
and say to her, "Your grandfather saved my life." And I studied this, and I read about Dolores Hart,
Yes, yes.
was an actress.
She was my mentor.
Yeah, so tell
She
me.
was Dolores Hart. She was I believe the forerunner to Grace Kelly.
Yes.
And yeah, she was just stunningly
nun
beautiful,
who was-
sultry voice. Where the Boys Are.
Yes, and she
Yeah.
was with Elvis Presley. She starred with
Yeah. She,
Warren Beatty.
Yeah, and George Hamilton.
Yes, and then became a nun.
Yeah, and if you watch, there's an incredible documentary.
Yes.
Called "God is the Bigger Elvis."
Yes, exactly. I've
Have
seen
you
it.
seen it? It's
Brilliant.
It's really great.
And
I think
isn't
my
she your
sister's in-
sister's mother superior?
Well, no, she was Mother Prioress at that time, so she was number 2 at that point.
Okay.
I think when the movie was made, she was number 2, and there was Mother David was over her, but yeah. And prior to that, we'd had the wonderful Lady Abbess,
Yes.
Benedict Duss, whose story I really want you to get into because I think there's a story. I was just on the way here, and I bumped into her great niece.
No, come
on
on.
the way here, I thought, oh
That's
my goodness.
unbelievable.
Yeah, just on the way here.
That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. How did your sister become a nun if she's from a Protestant background? And
Well,
I remember your mother told me something about Bennington or something.
yeah, so she was at Bennington. She was one of the Woodstock kids. And,
Okay.
and just to kind of go back to me a little bit, when you asked about, you talked about how I said it was so hard.
Yes.
I've come up with a kind of a rationale now. I was born in 1962.
Yeah.
And I had one ear listening to the Green Beret, fighting soldiers from the sky, men who live and jump and die. 100 men will test today, but only one is the Green Beret. That's Dad's story.
So great.
Dad heading off to Vietnam over and over again. And then upstairs on the 3rd floor, my sister,
Georgina.
yep, turn up the record player. Wham, 1, 2, 3, what are you fighting for? Well, I don't give a damn when you talk about Vietnam. And I'm thinking, I love them both.
Right.
I want to be both. I want to be a hippie and appreciate my country. And
Where were your brothers in this mix?
my brothers were probably wearing stockings over their head at the time, trying
These
to
two
get their hair
girls.
to go long. I remember my brother Robert had a crew cut, and he was just all he wanted to do was become one of the Beatles. At least in looks only. And then my other little brother was just probably causing just trouble, being an ankle biter.
Oh. And so she.
But she had. It's funny because I remember when she went to boarding school. I guess I can tell this now. And she got in trouble for smoking marijuana.
Oh, I
She
love
was
it.
one of the first ever to get in trouble for
She had to
smoking
get,
marijuana.
listen, she had to get these things out of the way because she was going to
That's
become a
right.
nun.
Yeah, and around that time, I went to visit her. I don't think I partook in any of her marijuana.
Where was the
smoking.
boarding school?
It was Madeira. It was called Madeira.
Oh.
And anyway, I remember being able to spend the night in her dormitory, and she brought me into this woman's room. Now, I have a little bit of a sixth sense. I sometimes some would say psychic or whatever,
Sure.
or third eye. And my grandfather also had that. And I remember when she brought me into one of her buddies' rooms, and she said, "Well, this is Felicia, and look at what she has over her bed. She has a big picture of a nun, fully clothed nun." She goes, "She thinks she's going to become a nun when she gets out of here." And I remember looking at her and saying, "You're going to become a nun."
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And I think I was about 8.
Really?
Yeah, it was really weird. I just was like, bah, 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 bah.
And how old was she when she became a nun?
She was very young. In fact, Lady Abbess, or the abbess of the community, I think she was 18 to 21. She was really young.
So she was at Bennington.
When she started, yeah, she was, sorry, how old are you when you graduated? About 20?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she went to Bennington. She also hit Dartmouth and Middlebury. So she went to those three.
These weren't
schools.
exactly Catholic places.
No, but she hung. So she was part of kind of the Woodstock generation, and there was a group of them that discovered this Benedictine abbey, and they were attracted to it somehow, maybe the land, and they rung the doorbell and they asked the nuns, can we hang out here? And they were a co-ed group, and the nuns said, well, yeah, you can hang out here, but you're going to have to divide yourselves male and female because this is a monastery.
Yes.
So they came and they became intrigued, and they began to realize that there was something that they were searching for in their, hippies protesting kind of search at this abbey, and they found that there was a structure and a liberation that was kind of awakened in them by hanging out with these nuns.
And didn't you tell me, Helen, at one point you thought you were going to be a nun?
Yeah, I actually did. I really thought about it. Probably after some failed relationships with guys, I said, well,
maybe, hey, listen, I like the outfit.
My sister's always saying, I'm always the best dressed girl at the party.
It's so true.
And a facelift. But no, I thought about it, but guess what the answer was when I inquired? One Patton's enough, thank you very much.
That's hilarious.
And actually Mother Dolores Hart had made a pact with my father, promising him that she'd never take me.
Now, Helen, I can't imagine the responsibility of being a Patton. Your whole life, right?
Yeah, and it becomes more and more. But going back to the acting, I'm so happy about being able to find a through line to my gifts as an actor and what was then needed in this work with veterans. So back to London, they just, cast me because I had a decent singing voice as the songbird who would open up the World War I and World War II shows. The RADA had this tradition every year. They would do these shows that would appeal to their elderly vintage audience, So we do See How They Run or The Ghost Train, dancing
Let's get
with
Helen.
a ghost, and so we formed this band, a great pianist named Grant Parsons, who's turned out to be a really important casting director in England.
Interesting.
If you ever need
Give
one.
me the number.
Yeah. Anyway,
Share the
he and I
contact.
were part of this combo, and I learned the whole canon. I learned the World War I canon for the World War I plays and the World War II canons for the World War II plays, and they came so naturally to me. So, cut print, I've, had my small career, fallen in love with a German, moved over to Germany with a graduate degree at that point in directing and trying to figure out how I'm going to make it all work. Also having kids, being a doctor's wife, and then fitting in a couple of visits to the World War II country, which in that case would have been Normandy.
Yes.
And I was invited by a tour director I liked very much to come and join a group of D1ers. They call them D1ers. These are the guys that were in the first wave coming on the beach. This actually happened. And so I'm sitting there with one of my kids. I think the other one was too young, and we were just enjoying this boat ride that would peruse the D-Day beaches with the guys who were part of it. And they weren't that old at the time, they were in their late 70s maybe. And one of the tour directors came to me and said, "Helen, we've got a problem." "What is it?" She goes, "One of our guys wants to jump."
Oh, no.
"One of our guys wants to jump and storm the beach. He's having a flashback."
Oh, wow.
And so sit tight because we've got to deal with this situation. And I'm trying to remember if he was like screaming or
Yes.
lunging himself over the bow. But I just immediately knew what to do. I picked up the microphone and I said, "I will never forget the people I've met braving those angry skies." Come on, boys, we know this one.
Helen, that's
And
brilliant.
they sang, and they were like, and he came
that's
off.
so beautiful.
He came off the ledge. "I remember well when the shadows fell, the look of hope in their eyes."
And he sang right back.
"Yeah, there'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs." And then they sang, and they calmed down, And
And did you feel then I have a calling?
it was amazing. And then they said, we're gonna change our tour a little bit. We want to come and see you at Camp Patton. And they changed their tour. They got on the bus, and they came, and we sat together in a place called Camp Patton, which was the reason I was there. Camp Patton was the place where my grandfather was hidden just after D-Day for 1 month. He was there for a couple of reasons. One was bad behavior. He'd slapped some soldiers in Italy when he lost his cool. He forgot to thank the Russians when he was in England. Eisenhower and Marshall were just fit to be tied about him. Marshall told Eisenhower, he's messing us up. And bull in the china shop. Eisenhower said, no, we're going to need him.
Mm-hmm.
So they placed him there. Meanwhile, they prepared something called the Ghost Army, which you may have heard about. I would say not actors, sound designers, artists who created a fake army. So when the Germans would fly over on another part of France, they thought Patton's army was there.
Brilliant.
But anyway, he was hidden in this orchard, and he was very upset. And of course,
he's in timeout.
yeah, and you know that when we're in timeout or when we're in that kind of a low point, or Jesus falling how many second time,
Yes.
on the road to Calgary.
Yes.
He prayed.
Is that when he did the weather prayer?
No, but he learned to pray. He learned at that time. He said, and he had masses said in the
Really?
orchard. Yeah, and I really think he was in agony. But and that's where God opens you up.
Agony in the garden.
And he received his calling, and he continued to prepare. He prayed. He prepared his soul. He prepared his brain. He got all the tactics in place. What if I do get to join this liberation sweep?
Yes.
And indeed, 1 month later, he got the call, and they said, George, we need you. Go.
Thank God.
Yeah.
After
and
all
he
he did.
was ready, but he was prepared spiritually also.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've always said that, and this is sort of not really a new discovery, but I finally think I've figured it out, especially from my standpoint as an actor. We prepared to be actors. You prepared, you did all the training, and you knew you liked it.
Yeah.
And you felt great on stage. But you, I'm sure, had a moment where you became it.
Yes.
You became the actor.
Right.
You are and have it. And that happened to him in that apple orchard. I believe that is when he became General Patton. He had been practicing, he had his war face, he had his accoutrements, he had his pistols, he had his breeches, who wore it better, him or Hitler? I mean, he had the same outfit, and he did these things to be very plucky and part of his tactic to throw the enemy. But in the end, he really was infused with his true calling. And then the sky was the limit. And the same thing happened to me. Here I was, kind of derailed from this acting career that I really wanted to have. I wanted to be a Shakespearean actress or be in films. And I got to dabble a little bit in films. But then I end up with this German. I end up in Normandy, and I end up in the apple orchard. And I'm through my desire to explore having a vocation, Lady Abbess said, go to this apple orchard where your grandfather was and feel. So I replanted the trees, and I directed a play with the kids of the town.
Could you feel his spirit? Like, could you feel his presence?
For some reason, and I'd also, that same year, had a very bad car accident. And I woke up in the hospital looking at the light on the table, and it said Heidelberg, which is where he died.
Yes.
Yeah.
He had the car accident.
Yeah, it
there.
was the Heidelberg lamp. It's a brand of lamp.
Unbelievable.
And there was these times when it was almost like our spirits merged, and I became an act. I became who I was supposed to be.
Yes.
And
you're performing. I mean, you're still a performer, even though you're not acting in the traditional sense. But you go all over the world and do such a beautiful service.
Thank you.
Of spreading to all the World War II vets, their families, and Americans, to make us remember and honor these men.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a little slice, and but now it's getting very exciting because God also, and I love to be able to speak openly about God.
Yes.
God also knows that I loved acting and I loved being around actors. I love directing, and He's put me together with the actors of the Band of Brothers
Oh,
in their kind of not retirement, but they've there's been a lot of years since that show came on, but we've met again.
wait, I just saw
Yeah.
you on something on Instagram when you were dressed up.
Oh no!
Oh, I loved it. Singing. I'm like, you're superb.
I wanted to do that. I was invited to this big costume do in Normandy, and I know that everybody expected me to appear as Grandpa or as one of the Andrews sisters because I'm a singer. And I said, I'm going to go as a French resistance.
I loved that. That was great.
I went as a French.
That was fantastic. And now, where are your children?
So my oldest son, Ingmar, he lives in Paris.
Okay.
And he's a shoe designer for Balenciaga.
Really?
He has 11 shoes out this year.
So
Yeah,
everyone's
he
so
is
artistic.
Something else. But I'd say both. They all have a little grandpa and dad in them.
Well, Helen, you
yeah.
have to say, does everyone tell you look a lot like your grandfather?
Yeah, I know, I do.
Oh my gosh.
I was worried whether she should put the mascara
It's
on because
insane.
I do have his eyes.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
And tell me about, and where's your
I'm
other
older
son?
than he was, and he died, by the way.
Oh, I know. Don't even talk about that. That's like
But
crazy.
no, my other son is working with a company called Mark Ritchie, and they do really intricate and creative woodworking.
Yeah.
So he's working on the facade for the new National Geographic Museum in Washington.
Amazing. And you're, okay, so your grandfather has a spiritual awakening, basically, which is such an example to everyone because
Yes, it
whenever in
is.
life we think our lowest is the lowest, you think
Yeah.
you're in timeout, you think you're being disciplined, but this is when he develops and
Right.
becomes close to God. The prayer that he's so famous for.
Yes, it's really important. It's going to be his greatest legacy.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Yes.
He he had followed his intuition, followed his faith, sometimes followed his ego. He really wanted to liberate Paris.
Yes.
And so he got down there as fast as he could. Wasn't able to do that. Had to hand it over to Leclerc, but yeah, that was the right thing to do. And then he got towards the place called the Ardennes. He was stationed in a beautiful city called Nancy in France, and it was going in the direction of Germany. It was on the German border, and he just assumed that he was going to just head right over to Berlin. But one of his very savvy intelligence officers named Oskar Koch, who was Jewish, happened to be Jewish, and incredibly astute. Every day he would prime my grandfather about what was going on. And he said, General, we've had all those escaped Germans at the Falaise Gap. There was a part of the Normandy, just after the Normandy campaign, when we were just not on our game with the British or the Americans, I suppose, but I kind of have to blame the British more.
Of course.
Sorry,
Come on.
Montgomery. Yeah, so, Coke needs Pepsi, I always say. But no, we have, because Montgomery, and Patton, they were rivals. But so there were about 60,000 German soldiers kind of escaped. And they recollected themselves. And they should have been defending Germany, but they were missing. So his intelligence officer said, I think they may be up towards the Bulge area, or towards what would be known as the Bulge area in Bastogne. And my grandfather said, let's go.
Wow.
He trusted his intelligence officer that much. Then Eisenhower and the high command called him over to a nearby city and said, look, we've got a problem. We're going to have you turn your army and go up there. How long will it take? We think it's going to take you 4 days. He says, I can do it in 2.
Oh.
And they said, don't joke. He said, sorry, I've already done it. Now, this could have gotten him a court-martial, I think. I mean, to turn his entire army without asking.
Eisenhower was just been like, what? This Patton.
But now he was happy
Yes.
for what he'd done.
Yes.
And they got up there in time and relieved the soldiers who were desperately trying to hold the city of Bastogne.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
So, Helen, I mean,
so I didn't get to the prayer. So
Yes, the prayer.
everything was working out technically, except the weather was horrible.
the weather was terrible.
And Grandpa was
How old was he right now at this
he
point?
was 59.
59.
And he said, he just had his 59th birthday because his birthday was on November 11th. And he said, I need help. And he called his chaplain in, named James O'Neill, and he said, "Chaplain, I want you to write me a prayer for good weather." And he said, "Well, wait a minute. Are you asking for indulgences? Because, Martin Luther tried to
Yes.
teach us to stop doing that."
Yeah.
And he said, "I don't care if it takes you kneeling on a flying carpet. I want you to
Come on,
get
Father
this
O'Neill."
going." And Father O'Neill came up with this beautiful prayer, which I have brought to you today.
Yes, please.
And and I'll tell you something. It worked, and it works. "Almighty and most merciful Father, we humbly beseech thee of thy great goodness to restrain these immoderate rains with which we have had to contend. Grant us fair weather for battle. Graciously hearken to us as soldiers who call upon thee, that armed with thy power, we may advance from victory to victory and crush the oppression and wickedness of the enemies, and establish thy justice among men and nations. Amen." And on the other side, there was a little note signed by Grandpa. "To each officer and soldier of the 3rd United States Army, I wish a Merry Christmas. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We march in our might to complete victory. May God's blessing rest upon each of you on Christmas Day. Lieutenant General commanding 3rd United States Army, George S. Patton."
Isn't
Jr.
that fantastic? What a man.
Yeah.
What a giant among men.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So actually, I spoke to a witness in Belgium who was a child at the time who remembered the skies opening up and the planes being able to just jet across.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah. And then the tanks were able to.
I'm sure he had a hotline to heaven. I'm sure God was like, "What do you need, General?
Yeah.
I'm right here."
But he could feel it. He could feel his time coming to an end, too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you just one last story. I was up in Sweden, and I was privileged enough to stand at the very place where my grandfather had his last picture taken. And I can send you a copy of that picture. And he was there. Eisenhower was not able to come and meet the king, who wanted to say thank you for all that had happened in World War II. This was 1945. The war was over. Everything was being cleaned up and sorted out. And Patton had been in 1912 Olympics. So they said, "Oh, that would be great. You go, George. You were in the Olympics. They'll all be happy to have you."
What was in the
up
Olympics
there."
for?
The pentathlon. That's
Interesting.
riding, fencing, running, swimming, and horses.
Amazing.
Yeah. So he got robbed because he actually shot through his own bullseye in the shooting event. And because they couldn't figure out how he'd done it, and there was, he didn't hit the edge of the bullet. He was so perfect. They thought he'd shot out of the park.
Oh.
But anyway, he should have gotten the bronze, but he didn't. So they gave him a chance to redo it, and he did as well.
Oh my.
And so, but after that event, and everyone was having a good time, seeing that he was as great a shot as his legend said, they said, "General, next we're going to be taking you to the cathedral at Uppsala. We've got 1,000 people waiting to have a church service with you there." And if you see this picture, he buckles and he looks at the distance. And I finally learned what he actually said. "I won't go." And they said, "What? You're going to disappoint a lot of people." He says, "I can't go. The next time I go into a church, we'll be in a box."
Oh, wow. He knew.
And that was the last picture ever taken of him. And a couple of weeks later, he was dead.
That is unbelievable.
Amazing, huh?
Well, Helen, I have to tell you, you are like royalty, and your family's royalty, and what your grandfather did for our country and your father, it's just humbling to be here with you, and you're such a talent. And I want to say to you, like you say, you want to get back into theater. Even when you just read the prayer, you're so, you command. You're just have a great presence, and I
thanks.
always just admire you as an actress.
Oh.
But I'm telling you, I've got this play coming next year
All right.
in Chicago. So I want to, you said you like to direct, and they were saying to me, "Who's going to direct?" But let's talk about
You
that.
can talk about it. And I'd like to propose a play for you.
What is that?
Well, first of all, I've just got to, and
Little Red Riding Hood?
I hope you're editing, because I do want to just throw this in. It's really important. The apple orchard that I referred to before,
Yes.
So at the time Grandpa was there, the future abbess of my sister's abbey in Bethlehem, Connecticut, was in an abbey outside of Paris.
No way.
She was dying. She had been given last rites. It's a whole story. You can read it in a book called Mother Benedict. Anyway, she had hallucinations of my grandfather coming, and she didn't know who he was.
Oh my! It's
And
like
she
a
was
quilt.
given instructions to pray that this, and she described it as a white arrow would
And
cut
here your
through.
sisters at this.
Yeah, and my sister, she was given permission by the Pope at the time
Yeah.
to go back to America and say thank you to the Allied forces by founding the abbey in Bethlehem. And then 20 years later, or 30, my sister ends up on her doorstep.
That is. It's
Yeah.
like it's.
And when she gets there, there is a painting waiting there's a painting, I think, in the gift shop. And it's of an angel guiding a little girl through the forest.
oh.
My grandmother, Patton, bought the same painting, the print of that painting, for my sister when she was born. And it was still in our house. I still have it. And it was painted by the woman who gave the first piece of land to the abbey.
This
So
is
it's
all-
just too
all-
much. So that's a whole other thing. But I wanted you to have the whole thing.
No, I feel like Helen. Honestly, look with your family. It's like there's this orchestra. It's like
There
okay,
is.
you go here and you go here, and Georgina joins the convent, and you go all over. It's
Yeah.
You do amazing work, and you're guided by God. I mean, there's no doubt about it.
But I would like to direct you
Yes.
in a play called The Best of Friends by Hugh Whitmore about an abbess and her relationship with George Bernard Shaw.
Oh, sounds fabulous.
Yeah. And Wendy Hiller played it for PBS or Masterpiece Theater.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's time that we have this play
Well, let's
again.
do it. You gotta
It's a
send it.
two-hander.
Well, I'm honored to have you on. To be continued, because
right.
I'm so glad that we
Talk too much. I
reunited.
probably talked too long.
You didn't talk too long. You kidding me? It's fascinating. It's insane. And I just want to say I am Siobhan Fallon Hogan, Catholics and Cappuccinos. And I am so honored to have my pal, this American royalty, Helen Patton. And thank you so much for coming on.
No, it was great.
It was so, you're unbelievable. And so is your family.
We got to do stuff.
Absolutely. God bless.
By the way, this is cold.
I'm Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and I hope you will follow on all social platforms, Catholics and Cappuccinos. And my friend Helen Patton would like to tell you about her social platforms.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
Oh wow!
please do.
Oh goodness! Well, we have the Patton Foundation and Walk Among Heroes and Wish for Our Heroes. Those are three organizations that I relate to. Obviously, the Patton Foundation, and you'll find those on Instagram. Please follow them, and you can also follow me, Helen Ayer Patton. Yeah, and that would be great. Also, Facebook.
You're a great American.
Yeah, and the PattonFoundation.org. And we are very, very grateful for all your donations. And believe me, our work is to extend the Patton legacy, to make youth aware of what freedom costs without having to hopefully ever put them in harm's way.
Beautiful. Hi, my name is Siobhan Fallon Hogan, and I've been an actress for 555 years. What do you call these people that do this? Podcasters?
Podcasters. You're a podcaster.
She finally made it. Catholics and Cappuccinos is a conversational piece between myself and fabulous other Catholics and non-Catholics who are friends of Catholics.
So you gave me a great gift that night that you don't know, but I'll tell you about
Please
it.
tell me.
If you pull it out of me, it doesn't come cheap.
Is your husband Catholic?
Is the Pope from Chicago?
What I would like people to take away from this show when they watch is the joy of Catholics and the gifts of Catholics, of all the different people that are going to be on. Jonathan Rumi.
What do I do? And I looked up, and all I could see was the crucifix hanging above my kitchen. And so I just literally dropped to my knees.
Kevin James.
Because it is every day. It's all about sacrifice, and it's about, you're going to fall, but it's about getting up.
Yes, exactly, and having hope. What better way to talk to somebody than with a cup of cappuccino and talking about Catholicism?
Catholics and Cappuccinos,